Okay, think about something you are absolutely 100% certain of. Like the sky is blue or that you're listening to my voice right now. Seems simple, right? Well, what if I told you that proving you know that is one of the biggest, oldest headaches in all of philosophy? So today, that's what we're diving into. What does it actually mean to know something?
I mean, let's face it, we are practically drowning in information. A quick Google search can give you an answer to pretty much anything. But is that really the same thing as knowing? Because having a fact pop up on your screen is one thing. Truly understanding it, being certain that it's correct, that is a whole different ballgame. So yeah, that's the big question for today. What's the difference between just having a random piece of info and having genuine knowledge? What does it take for you to be able to confidently say, I don't just think this is true, I know it? For more than 2,000 years, I mean, we're talking all the way back to Plato, philosophers had what they thought was a really solid answer. They came up with this pretty straightforward three-part formula for knowledge. And for a long time, pretty much everyone agreed this was it. This is the classic recipe, usually called justified true belief, or JTB. The idea is that for something to count as knowledge, you need these three key ingredients. First, well, you have to actually believe it. Makes sense. Second, it can't just be your opinion, it has to be objectively, factually true. And third, and this is the really important part, you need a good reason for believing it. You need justification. That's what's supposed to separate real knowledge from just a lucky guess. Let's make this whole justification idea a little more real. Picture two jurors in a courtroom. Both of them believe the defendant is guilty, and hey, it turns out he actually is. Now, the first juror, he just went with a gut feeling. He got it right, but it was basically a coin flip, pure luck. The second juror, though, she carefully listened to all the testimony, weighed all the evidence. That's justification. It's the critical link between just having an opinion that happens to be right and actually knowing something. So for centuries, this simple formula, justified true belief, was the gold standard. It was neat, it was tidy, and it seemed to work perfectly. Until, well, it didn't. In 1963, a philosopher named Edmund Gettier came along and published this tiny little paper that completely blew this 2,000-year-old idea to pieces. And get this, he did it in a paper that was less than 3 pages long. It was tiny. In it, Gettier laid out these really clever thought experiments, we call them Gettier cases now, that showed a massive fatal crack in the foundation of this whole classical definition.
So here's one of his most famous examples. Imagine you look up at a clock on the wall, one you've trusted for years and years. It says 7:30, so naturally you form the belief the time is 7:30. And just by pure coincidence, it is actually 7:30 at that exact moment. So let's see, you have a belief, it's true, and you're justified because you looked at a reliable clock. It checks all the boxes, right?
But here's the twist. Unbeknownst to you, that clock is broken. It stopped working at exactly 7:30, yesterday. You just happened to look at it at the one single moment in the day when it was accidentally showing the correct time. So think about that. You meet all three conditions, your belief is justified, and it's true. But it's only true because of pure dumb luck. And our gut, our intuition, just screams that you don't really know what time it is if you're looking at a stopped clock. This was huge. It proved that the classic formula was missing something crucial. All right, here's another classic Gettier case. A farmer looks out into his field, and he sees what looks for all the world like a sheep. So he thinks, yep, there's a sheep in my field. And guess what? He's right. There is a sheep out there. His justification seems totally solid. He's a farmer, he's seen thousands of sheep, and that thing looks just like one. So again, belief, truth, justification, check, check, check. But of course, there's a twist. The thing he's actually looking at, it's a big, fluffy dog that happens to look just like a sheep from a distance. Meanwhile, totally hidden from his view behind a hill, there is a real sheep. So his belief is true, but not for the reason he thinks it is. And here we are again. He has a justified true belief that's only correct because of a massive coincidence. He got it right completely by accident. And that's the heart of the Gettier problem. If your belief is only correct because of luck, it just doesn't feel like real knowledge. So Gettier's insight was simple but totally devastating. You can have a justified true belief that's still just based on luck. And if it's luck, it's not knowledge. And just like that, a 2,000-year-old formula was broken. And for the past 60 years or so, philosophers have been trying to figure out how to pick up the pieces. Now, this whole problem of even defining knowledge, it opens the door to an even deeper and frankly more unsettling challenge. Because if we can't be sure our reasons for believing something aren't just getting us lucky, well, how can we be sure of anything at all? This is where we get into the territory of radical skepticism.
Skeptics have this really powerful tool they use called a skeptical hypothesis. It's basically a what-if scenario, a story about the world that could, in theory, be true, would feel exactly like your normal life, but in which everything you think you know is completely wrong. And the real kicker? You can't actually prove you're not in one. The most famous and mind-bending of all these hypotheses is a total sci-fi nightmare. You've probably seen variations of it in movies like The Matrix. It's called the brain in a vat thought experiment. Okay, the scenario goes something like this. You don't have a body, you are in fact just a brain floating in a jar of nutrient goo somewhere. There's a supercomputer wired directly into your neurons, and it's feeding you every single sensation you've ever had. Your childhood memories, your family, the feeling of the chair you might be sitting in right now. All of it is just a perfectly crafted, totally immersive simulation. The skeptic's argument from here is, well, it's brutally logical. It starts with a simple challenge. Prove you're not a brain in a vat. Go ahead. Any evidence you point to, look, I have hands, or I can see the room around me, could just be part of the computer program. So if you can't be 100% certain you're not in the vat, how can you be 100% certain you actually have hands? And if you can't even know that, then what can you really truly claim to know about the outside world at all? And that's the ultimate challenge, isn't it? If your entire experience of reality would be completely identical, whether you're in the real world or in the simulation, then there's no test you can possibly run from the inside to tell the difference. Any piece of evidence you find is already potentially part of the trick. Thinking about this kind of stuff for too long can be really unsettling. It can start to feel like the solid ground of reality you've been standing on your whole life is starting to crumble away. But hey, don't worry, you are definitely not the first person to feel that way. There's actually a name for this feeling. It's called epistemic vertigo. It's that kind of intellectual dizziness you get when you start questioning the very foundations of what you know, and you realize maybe our grip on what's real isn't quite as solid as we'd like to believe. And so that's where we'll leave you. After watching a 2,000-year-old idea of knowledge just fall apart, and after seriously considering that maybe all of this is a simulation, the question isn't just for philosophers anymore. It's for you. So take a look around. Think about what you know. How certain are you, really, right this second,